Amy, again.
I really wasn't gonna laugh. Damn.
Okay, I apologize, everybody, for being a little bit late. We just had a full quarter of the show without me hitting record or broadcast. So it was really good. I'm sorry you missed it.
It was lightning in a bottle. We'll never get that back. It wasn't that great. I was actually starting to think, oh no, I'm going on and on. So it worked out great.
And then I just thought I'd do it again, like the second time. So yeah. But welcome. The show is started. And thank you for the comments, by the way. That's how I knew that nothing was happening, because I was like, oh, nobody's commented. How many people are watching?
They heard it was going to be Amy Zoellers, and they were like, meh. That just can't be true. Look, see,
hi, Anita. I'm so sorry that we are a little bit late, but yeah, scintillating show, scintillating pre-show. But yes,
we got the kinks out. Here. Yeah, that's for sure. The kinks are out. We are ready to shine.
Something's out. But I do want to thank you today for being here, Amy. Amy, many of you think of Amy as the co-host of Cake and Hyperbole, and we've been doing a bunch of poetry things for a while. And she's got her live Instagram over on, and the podcast in A minor, just tons of stuff. But today, Amy is our star, and that is why if you look here, gosh, I still can't do it right after 3 times. It says fan of Amy.
Oh, thank you, Angela. And again, I will say what a champion you are of other writers and me, going back years. And I'm so just thrilled to be here and grateful for all that you do for everyone and for the stuff that you write that, to bless us with.
Oh, thank you. I am super excited to have you here. We said all those great things, and now I'm like, let's go back to let's just go back to that secret book thing.
Yeah. We were on the secret book.
Yes, I do want to talk about the books because you had kind of a poetry explosion last year. They were written, but you hadn't released them into the world. And so you kind of had like this breakthrough of publishing. And how many books did you publish last year? I'm thinking like 9, right? I have them all in my Kindle, but...
If you count sweater poems, which is basically one long poem constructed over pulling weird phrases out of a can in order throughout National Poetry Month in April, that's a short one, like 32 pages or something, but that does make 9. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Yeah. But there's a 10th book.
There is, though.
Would you like to talk about that 10th book, or is that like a secret I asked for the 3rd time? Like, I don't know this answer.
Well, I just happen to have it right here. It's something that has become a fun, recently, just a fun part to build into the mystique, where if I'm writing a bio for something, I can always say the author of several works of poetry, including the secret one under the pseudonym. And so I feel like that gets, there's a line to throw out and reel them in, I'm hoping. But it's not on my author page because, funny story, I basically wrote it. My child is now 17. He was about 5. So about 12 years ago, I was writing it in response to just, the difficulty of like, I only got to have 1 kid and stuff. I mean, never mind that I survived cancer and shit, but I'm sorry. I really try not to swear on my podcast and stuff. And so anyway, I'm going to try to be the good Christian
chick.
That's
because I just dropped the F-bomb like 3 times when I saw that I wasn't actually recording.
That was so much fun. That was the funnest part of the show where we were like, oh, and then so I was like, okay, so is it still supposed to say scheduled? And you were like, F. I'm sorry to throw that out there, but it was fun.
No.
But I was writing poetry to survive. My child, the shoes are getting bigger, and I got no more babies, and I just was supposed to be such a mother. But the Hollies, the band The Hollies, saved my soul. So I wrote The Eye of Tony Hicks, who is their cute guitarist. I know, gosh, I really just like ruined my poet mystique right there. I'm sorry. There's a lot of boy crazy and food in my poetry. That's basically two themes that I lean on. Poems from the Beatnik Housewife. Yeah, that's the one that I basically just released. And like our 10-year reunion or something in high school was coming up, and I was like, oh no, I'm not where I wanted to be, and everyone feels bad for me because I pissed God off and can't have another kid and all this stuff, and whatever, the mind space, and so like I never connected it to my bank account. It's not on my author page on Amazon. I don't see any money when it sells, but I didn't care, and I don't care, and I was just like, I'm just releasing this to the world. And so you won't find it on my Amy Zoellers author page on Amazon. It's just, if you look up Beatnik Housewife or The Eye of Tony Hicks, it'll come up. But it's also chaotic and whatever. I go back and read it. I went back and read it not long ago because it's like from 11 or 12 years ago. And I was like, oh, and like my picture on the back is a picture my son took of me because he liked messing with our cameras and phones, and it's just like the back of me while I'm watching TV. So I'm like, I'm not even gonna show you my face. But yeah, weird times, because now I just show my face everywhere and confess all my sins and whatever. But it's not as bad as I thought when I reread it, but it's also, it's part of the growth, of your poetry practice. So yeah.
I think if we don't look back at our early work and kind of go, ew, maybe, I don't want to say we're not developing, but it just seems like we, that was perfect then.
It was what it needed to be.
Things. Yeah. And then now you don't want to do it anymore. It's like you're moving on.
Yeah, and I think that's really a part of what allowed me to release a lot of things last year, is that I had reached the point where I was like, this is who I am now, or this is who I was then, depending on when it was written, what I was releasing. And to say, I don't care if I look back on that and cringe, because this was exactly my story. This is how it was. Yep.
Yeah, that is who you were at the time. Like tattoos and publishing.
Yeah.
It is a time capsule of who you are at that moment.
Yes.
Even if it's Mario Kart tattoo, don't regret it. That's who you were.
Exactly, because it's such a, I know from having cancer at 24, it is such a privilege to live this life. And this is a really cool year I've mentioned on my podcast, because it is 24 years ago that I had my cancer surgery. So I've lived another life.
Wow.
I was 24 when I had it. 24 years have gone by. I've had a bonus lifetime. And so, so it is such a privilege to have had that. And I'm so grateful that I can just spew my story all over everyone and be like, that's how it is. And if I don't think I'm capable of being embarrassed of it, because it's just the truth,
Yeah. And if I know anything about you, it is that you are a very confessional poet.
so confessional. So confessional. It's like, I don't know why. It's like the story just has to get out there. And I think that, that everybody has things that they want to story tell about, because we're humans, or there are just, I don't know, people who dig that. Not everyone, maybe, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know I cannot explain the compulsion, but it makes me feel better when I do it, it's a relief.
It's a gift though, because you are so confessional, and you'll be like, I like boys, whatever, you don't like it. I like glitter. I'm not moody and dark. And, it kind of helped me be like, well, I'm not always dark and controlled. I mean, I sometimes have fun. I mean, not as much as you, but like sometimes I do.
I do have fun. I do. Thank you. But no, you make a good point. I don't know. I know that you had, lots of things in your life that brought you to the way that you are, just like I do. But I will say that I was so into poetry. I was so into writing poetry in college, and I was really into reading it. And I majored in German and I minored in English. But I am telling you, the 90s, because it was the 90s. I graduated from college in 96. And so all leading up to that, it was, to me, a forbidding time to be who I was. It was, I knew a lot of, I worked at the campus radio station. So I knew a lot of really nice people who were in, emotional pain. And they liked me and they accepted me, but there was just something in the air, like in all of the 90s, and the music and the classes and everything, that made me feel like nobody wants to hear what I have to say about how joyful I am. And it's not like I didn't have hard things in my childhood. My mom was sick a lot and almost died once and had depression and was institutionalized for a short time. And it was just like, but I was so happy. I mean, like I think I was a real, sort of blessing to my mother in the sense that I was just like this happy little freak for whatever reason. And my mother had a lot of Dickensian elements in her childhood, a difficult time. But she's like, you're my joy child. You're always happy. And it really helped her somehow.
Yeah.
And so like with her, it was okay. But like out there in the world where everybody was in pain and talking about it and singing about it, I felt like I just needed to shut up. And maybe someday I would be able to say, you know, who I was and what I was. And now I'm like in my late 40s and I'm like, well, you know, it seems ridiculous now, but I also knew that was part of it. That was just part of the whole process.
Yeah, it's part of the development, I think, too. I mean, I didn't, I think I feel like I didn't become myself. I mean, like, you know, when you're a teenager, you don't know who the heck you are, those younger days. And then you kind of get into life and start having kids. And the 90s were like an art killer decade, I think.
Oh, good. I'm glad I didn't imagine it.
Yeah, no, it was me too. I actually stopped writing poetry because I got like reamed so badly about poetry. Like I took the risk and went to one of those critique groups. And basically it was like, you're disgusting. You're a horrible poet. You shouldn't even touch ink. You're so terrible. You know, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm never doing that again. You know, I will never write another poem.
And, you know, probably as young people and females, we were probably like, okay, I better shut up then. You know, it was a terrible thing, but we were obedient, you know, and
I obviously suck. So
I better not offend people with my personal brand of. Yeah. And now I'm trying to be the opposite of that now in the sense that because being confessional and being out there and doing what we do, I feel like I don't feel like people have told me, you made me brave enough to do this myself, not a ton of people, because I don't think I reach a huge audience and I'm cool with that, but because I think a lot of weird stuff comes with that. But yeah, I mean, if that can free people, if people can find the freedom that I found, somehow through gut-wrenching pain, of course, but because you had to say the thing and then you've got these piles of notebooks and you're like, and then you were like, why haven't you published? I have this publishing company. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, the reason I didn't publish is I thought I was going to do it through the library, but I had worked at the library and they had to make you wait a year to do it. And then after COVID, they have not accepted things in like 2 years because they don't have the staff. They may have it now, but now I work at the library again. So but I don't care. I'm fine, man. I guess I could die and have released 9+1 secret book of poetry and be like, that's probably good. There's always more to do, but I'm grateful for what I got to do. And I appreciate your encouragement in that because
last year was a stunning year for you. It just kind of like every time I turned around, it was like, oh, hey, I got another poetry book.
Oh yeah, can I have an ISBN number? I think I was sweeping it out of my soul.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to let's clear this and see what can happen next. That may be completely different. It may just be pottery, which I've not touched in a while. I'm sorry, pottery teacher. I'm still paying for the studio. I need to make a decision. I remember when you came to that point where you're like, yeah, and then you moved. But yeah. But it may just be music, I don't know, and stuff. So it was a good clearing out of who I was up to then, and stuff.
But that's I think we're told that we have to specialize. I have to, full disclosure, I've been reading Austin Kleon, his that little series, Steal Like an Artist.
Yep.
Show Your Work and
Keep Going.
Oh, which? Join my book club. No, I started a book club on Amazon, and I thought, how fun would it be to go through one chapter of his every week and try to do the thing in the chapter.
No, I'm writing it down.
I'll send you the link. It's on my blog under 5 things that you can do to exercise your rights.
Cool.
So anyways, that's my disclaimer of why I'm going to be all like, yes, break everything. Well, I say that anyways, but yeah, I am with Austin Kleon there. I'm like, yes, please,
Yeah.
let's do all those things.
Yes.
So anyways, yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's like he pointed out, and I was like, yeah, this is true, that we are told, or we tend to think that we have to be like specialists at something. I'm a poet. I can never be anything else, you know? But he's like, that's not what creativity and art is. It's do what you want. Today it might be, look, I have this thing. I actually was just like, I should draw pictures on this and take photos of them for something fun and visual, because I don't like to have a lot of stuff that I keep. I like digital stuff. So, you know, but why not? Could we not do that? But we're told, oh no, that would be your hobby. So yeah, join me, Amy. Let's talk about Austin Kleon.
We
but
need
also,
to.
This has been the process, and who knows where you're not going to end up anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, there's no end. It's a
continuum.
Right. Where are you now?
Part of your story. Austin Kleon, oh my gosh, we used his books when I was homeschooling my kid, and they're pretty good. Not 3B and
Hi, Nina. I don't know if you're referring to our late start or not. But yes,
it was funny.
Cliff notes, we started the show twice, and I forgot to hit, I would say we, but it's me. I have the button. I forgot to hit record twice or broadcast twice. So we are starting a little bit late, but yeah, it should have been on the hour.
It's kind of classic us, you know. I mean, I've got no criticisms, because technology, I mean, I work at the library now, and now I have to like know technology again for practical purposes and to help people on the fly. So I'm kind of like, but there's they're great.
No, it wasn't even a typo. Nina says a typo on the slate. It was literally, Angela got super excited because she has a new beginning, a new trailer, and I feel like I finally nailed it how I wanted it.
It was cool.
And I was so super excited to talk to Amy today that I forgot to start the show. Like, we're just having our own show back here.
To be fair, we did talk during that time.
Did.
Mission accomplished.
So I apologize to everybody who was here on the hour waiting.
And we'll never hear our lightning in a bottle. It was not, I was meandering and thinking, oh, I'm meandering. And then she was like, oh,
secrets were shared. It was the voice of gods came down upon us.
Oh, yeah. It was lightning.
Well, I want to bring up the number 40. Because you said that was a turning point in my life. 40 was when I kind of suddenly got so, I don't want to say so old, but I finally was like, wow, I'm still young enough to do stuff and old enough to go, I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of had a breakthrough of like, I'm going to do what I want, which is write books. So
yeah.
Do what you guys will with that, people. I'm going to be, I was writing for the newspaper, but I'm going to write fiction. Do you think what happened to you kind of, because you said 40 in part of that, do you feel like that was like a breakthrough and you're just like, I'm just doing this. This is who I am. It's not becoming anything. It's just letting yourself be seen, I feel like.
At the age of 40, I had already done the Eye of Tony Hicks. I think I was 37 or 38 when I released it. But at 40, it's just circumstances, right? At 40, I felt like I could be more myself, but then we moved to Texas. Like, we were 120 miles from my folks, and I live in, like, my childhood home now, so I'm like, really? Well, they're no longer with us, but at the time they were still with us when I was 40, but we moved to Texas, and my mother was in not great health. She had dementia. She was dying, sort of, which I acknowledge in Ordeal and French Lipstick, which is the first one I released. It's kind of like there are poems that are like, my mom's dying again, because she would have so many near misses that I missed her actual death. It was the day after our wedding anniversary, and so we like went to the climbing gym for the first time and all this stuff, and at some point, I don't remember if it was before that, but like my sister called and was like, Mom really seems to be on her way out. And I was like, okay, what do? Do you choose your husband or do you choose your mother? I don't know. Maybe if it's a death, you're supposed to choose your mother. But I had been so many times, whether we lived in Colombia or whether we lived in Texas, which was a difficult place to live and a difficult place to be myself, because I was struggling. I had a foot here because and then the schools were completely different. My son had gone to a really kind of high poverty school in Columbia and went to a very super competitive fancy pants school in Texas, where he was like struggling to keep up and also struggling to not be a nervous wreck, and wasn't quite doing what they wanted him to do and stuff. And even though he's wonderful, you know, and very capable, it was difficult for him. And so when I was 40, I was going through like the slog shit, whatever you want to say, that really started my poetry practice. I had read an article in Nylon magazine about an author named Helen Phillips, who had written a book called And Yet They Were Happy. And they were these 2-page fables that were just so entertaining. They were weird and funny and just so much fun. And they inspired me so much. And what she said in the article in that fashion magazine was that she had this practice of doing 2 poems a day, read 1, write 1. And so I started doing that the minute I found out that she did that. And I still was working on the switchboard. We hadn't moved to Texas quite yet. We were almost there. But I did it for like 2 or 3 years. And so I had a backlog of poetry. Not all of it great, not all of it good, you know, but it was what I was writing, and I was doing it every day, and I was reading a lot of poetry. And so basically that's kind of what I did in Texas. I tried to get a job at their library. I tried to get a job at a little like kinder music school. And I just could not get arrested in that town. You know, I don't know why I couldn't get a job. I think it was kind of like God going, well, you're going to need to homeschool your kid, and you need to be available for that. And once you start making money, that's going to be hard to just, you know, put away. You'll make excuses not to give your child what he needs. And so, what I did basically was sit in the bathtub, read poetry, write poetry, until I started homeschooling him. And I still did it through that when I wasn't needed, you know? And so, so that's like where this book came from, which is grief. It's basically like, I think the label I put on it at the author fair was like, you know, how to lose your grip with style. 'Cause I was, you know what, it's the human condition. Sometimes you're just going through it. And so that was this. And then after that, you know, the stuff was more recent, you know, like but 40, to answer the question, was just part of the slog. And I think I really found my stride when we moved back here. My father was still alive, and I was able to help him. And I was able to get a little job at the library, and just a lot of things unfolded. The pandemic gave me a lot of free time to focus on visual art, which I've included in a lot of my poetry books. And it just, at that point, you're right. The age was right. I no longer worried about whether people liked it or not. I've been very fortunate that I'm sort of anonymous enough that nobody's picked on me, really. You know, I think once you get like your stride, you're going to get all kinds of really helpful critics. And I don't need helpful critics. Sometimes I have helpful critics in my real life that I don't need, you know, from Joe Blow and stuff like that. So I'm very thankful that people who don't like my stuff just ignore it instead of letting me know. So thank you. Everyone, keep it up. You're doing great.
Which I want to say, it's, I think, a good plan. If you don't like, that's my thing. If I don't like something, I don't review it badly. I just don't review it. Unless it's like dangerous, but poetry is not dangerous.
Right.
Well,
right.
Good poetry could be dangerous. I mean, you know, we could go down that rabbit trail, but
right. It could be, certainly. And I think that I'm not like a social justice poet, and I'm not like a, you know, a political poet. I'm more of a confessional poet. But I don't really wonder about this, but I'm aware that I profess my faith on my podcast, my Christian faith, by the way, which has developed a kooky name in the last few years, where it sort of Christian equals complete wacko with like a lot of hatred. And I'm not one of those, you know. I feel like, you know what, hey man, it's like Herman Melville said, the universal thump is coming for us all. Let's just rub each other's shoulders. And I want to be part of the human, you know, the human race and the human solution, you know, and not a big fat jerk, because nobody needs that. We all have enough shit. I'm sorry, God, I'm cussing. We don't have enough crap in our lives, and I don't want to be that. You know, I don't want to be experienced as a big fat jerk.
Do not worry about the language, because I set off the F-bombs twice at the beginning of this. I've like set us up for
As I said in the same breath that I am a God-fearing Christian, God damn it. I was just,
Shit, I'm a Christian.
that is one of my places where I fall short. And guess what? Oh, thank you, Nina. Nina says a sparkly poet. Nina, you're a blessing, and I hope you're feeling better. Nina was not feeling good, so
Yes.
I hope improving. But yeah. So I am aware that I profess my faith and then am boy crazy, but also married.
That's okay, though.
And swear and complain and bitch and moan and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
but that's reality. I think that if you say, well, I'm a Christian poet and here's how I'm perfect, who wants to read that? I don't. I hate perfection. Oh, that's obvious. If you listen to my podcast and heard me do music, or it's just like, or if you've seen my artwork, I'm not saying that my artwork, I don't see anything wrong with it, but it's fast and emotional. Like poetry is sometimes I'll slap it down and be like, that's what I meant. But other times I'll slap it down and be like, I'm gonna like mess with that one later because it's a pleasurable puzzle, and let it for a year or a month or a week or whatever. So I'm not perfect and I hate perfection. And my husband's a perfectionist, and sometimes actually I'm chill now because I'm like 48. I'm like, I hate that. Who wants that to be perfect? Not me.
Yeah.
You might. He's the only one.
You know what? I will just say, and now that you said your husband's a perfectionist, I don't want to sound like I'm talking about your husband.
That's okay.
So, excluding the perfectionists that we know.
Right.
I do feel like, being yourself, not being perfect, because hello, none of us are perfect.
Right.
Like, there is nobody that's perfect. But by feeling like we have to be perfect, that's, I feel like, a selfish thing, because we want to be perceived as what we think of as better than we are.
Right.
And instead of also just loving ourselves for who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And also then that allows other people to not be perfect, which is why I am a fan. Oh, I still can't get that right.
Wait.
No.
I can't do
Wednesday,
it.
I'll figure out how to do this backwards.
Under Angela's name somewhere. Over there.
There.
Okay, good. Got it. Yay. You guys, it's backwards. We're not drunk. It's just that it's flipped.
My hand or something. There's a fire in my lasers. That's why I'm a fan of you, because I was like, when I started doing poetry, it was like nobody better ever know about this,
Right.
And so then I published finally as like I'm just doing this because, kind of thing, but I'm not a poet. I think I was like 5 years in before I would admit that I was a poet, and I would tell Ryan, I don't know why people keep associating me with poetry. And he'd be like, because you keep writing poetry. Well, I'm not a poet,
They noticed. I mean, congratulations. They noticed. I cultivated the persona in that bathtub. I was like, okay, I'm going to write some poetry after I get out of the bathtub. But first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my black turtleneck and a whole bunch of bracelets, because I was like, that's how I want to feel. I want to feel, I want to feel sparkly and glamorous and not shitty like I feel right now inside because of emotional garbage that's happening. And so I cultivated it and thought, this is what I would like to be. I would like to do this, and I have done this for a long time. And that's where it came, hey, let's do the live stream in 2020. I was we were working at the library. It was pandemic. It was August of 2020. And so we had gone back to work, but there was nobody in there. And like one of my jobs was to shelf read the young adult section. And because there was nothing to do, I would sometimes pause and read a book. You heard it from me, confessional poet. And I was reading this book in the YAs. I was reading the back of it, and it was just this child who was like an orphan or something and had nowhere to live and just kind of lived in the graveyard, and the dead were her, the ghosts were her friends and whatever. I'm like, this is great. But what she did was it was kind of like the movie Heart and Souls, which is one of my son's favorite movies. It's like they had these things they did not accomplish in life that they wished they had, and this little teenage girl is helping them to accomplish that. Like, they would have a poetry reading in the graveyard at night, or they would have an open mic night, or they would that's the only one I remember, because I was like, Zoom, I need to do that. And then I saw those gals. I had already seen those gals do that ghost story thing, and I'm like, that's what I'll do. I'll do it on Instagram Live. And then last minute, let's have Angela join. And I'm glad that you said yes, because I didn't know. I just thought I'm gonna throw it out there. I know she does poetry. And so I had to tell the world I was a poet. They did not tell me, but so what? You know?
Same result, different paths.
I was too private for them to. I'm kind of invisible. It's like I was trying to explain to a friend of mine the other night. I was like, no, see, I'm kind of invisible. Well, how on earth can you be invisible? Well, like, okay, you know what? You caught on to the fact that I'm doing stuff. Not everybody does, because I don't go to the grocery store like this, or church, or Cub Scouts, or whatever else I do. The library. I honestly have not gone to the library looking like, all got up in this, so people don't know. But I did put a flyer on the table in the library break room that was like, hey guys, check out this. Look, this chick called me poet like a rock star. Oh, that's going to entice you, just so you know. That's tomorrow. I was working yesterday. That's tomorrow at 2. So I don't know.
Funny.
I don't know if it did any good, but I'm to the point where I'm not hiding it anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. I want to hear about your books. We hear about all the books that you did last year.
Okay.
But first, I just want to mention the first time, like I met you, that I can remember,
okay.
And that was when I was doing that open mic.
Right.
And my inner dialogue is sitting over there going, I think there was like maybe 10 people or something. I don't remember. It wasn't a lot of people, right?
Pretty good turnout. It was all right.
Yeah. I just remember thinking, all these people are going to know I am a fraud. I can't organize things. I'm like, was I supposed to do this thing? Or like, I was like but that's the inner dialogue. Right. And then this chick walks in looking all cool. I think you actually had like a black turtleneck on or something.
I probably did.
Very poetic. And she whips out a freaking guitar in the library and just starts playing. And I was like, okay.
I did.
Now it's cool.
That's right. I brought you cred.
I think that was my thing too. And I'm not discounting any of the posts, but everybody was so nervous. Everybody had their inner dialogue going on.
Sure,
and it makes it stifling. You know what I mean? Like everybody was fine. There was no bad poetry. If there's even a thing, if that can be a thing, that there can be bad poetry. I know there is, but
I know.
We'll call it developing then, not bad.
Yes. I think that I struggle with that question too, because I hate the phrase bad poetry because it comes up on a lot of sitcoms. Like, oh, he's just sitting around, always sad, he loves this girl, he's sitting around writing bad poetry. I think that discourages people who might want to express that. Well, I must be one of those writing bad poetry. I think there's lazy poetry, and sometimes I write lazy poetry, but it usually doesn't make the cut. I don't know how anybody feels about my work, but I don't put it out there if I'm not happy with it and stuff. And so I do, but yeah, you're right. That's a.
I like that. I'm gonna start saying lazy poetry.
Yeah, I mean, because
if you don't write bad something, if you don't do bad stuff in the beginning, you're never gonna get to good stuff.
Yes, and that's like learning anything. If you don't knit crappy at first, you're never gonna knit good. If you don't bake crappy at first, you're never gonna bake well. And so, that's just life. That's like trying new things. Don't be afraid of the ugly.
Look how we start out as people. I mean, we do everything terrible. Like we crap on ourselves and we pee on ourselves and we can't enunciate and we're horrible, selfish personalities.
Barf on our mothers at church. And,
yeah. I say after I watch my toddler grandchild all day, I'm like, we're terrible when we're that age. No,
she's so cute.
She's adorable. Yeah. And I had a lot of fun. And I signed up to do more. I was like, yes. I need some more of that.
What a
you
great
will probably see the faces on Instagram again. We did more of that. Like,
yes.
It's my favorite thing to do it there.
I love it.
This is fan of time.
Over here.
A rundown of these books, you amazing, sparkly diva of the written word.
Oh, bless your soul, Angela. That was precious. Okay, I did mention Ordeal in French Lipstick, How to Lose Your Grip in Style, which is basically poetry that I wrote in that bathtub 2015, 2016 in Texas, trying to, handle my crap with life. Like my mother was dying. And I think, there's a poem in there that acknowledges that, when she did die and stuff, because we were living in Texas when it happened. But that later, like during the pandemic, I don't remember exactly when, like maybe 2021 is when I think I made a decision to write art rapes. Like in 2021, because I had some friends on Instagram that liked this, and they were all young. I don't want to be a weirdo, but they were like in their early 20s and stuff. And for some reason, we're connecting on musicians that we liked in common. And so I said one day, one of these friends on Instagram was just very, how you get, especially when you're young, but I still get this way when you're like, oh my gosh, I want to smell the, I don't know if this is what he said, but he's like, I was feeling like I would like to smell their aftershave or whatever, and touch their hair or whatever. So he was having one of those moments, and I was like, you know what, write a poem about it, because we were heavy into our poetry, you and I was like, that's how I handle things. Either draw their face, which is a wonderful way of spending time with somebody's face, Roland S. Howard, or write a poem about it, or a song or whatever. And I was like, write a poem about it, and a bunch of us will write a bunch of poems, and we'll release a book about it, because I knew that we could do that. And nobody did. Everybody it was like when I tried to start a rock band with moms in my book club when Clyde was like 14 years ago. They're all like, yes! And then I never heard another word about it, and I was kind of like waiting for people to be, I had one friend that would kind of do it with me, but she was also a professor at Mizzou and freaking had 3 kids. And so anyway, art rates ended up being just me, which makes me look crazy. I was like, but you guys, if we had all done it, Angela still swears she's going to write that poem about David.
I apologize. I will.
Oh, but I thank you for saying that, because okay, write it right now.
I'm getting write the David Bowie poem, Angela.
Oh boy, yeah.
Okay.
So that was the deal. It's basically about a bunch of post-punk / also British invasion musicians, and I did include artwork. The best one is the cover, because it's in color, because like my oil pastel ones are very colorful, but it's too expensive to do the color. Nobody would be able to afford the price. And
it does get very expensive.
Yeah. So that's what Art Rates is. That's the one with all the if you love singers and musicians, you can just come hang out with me. So that's that. Next was electrified corset, which refers to a feeling that I have. And you know what? This is actually, my husband's a therapist. It's very useful to be able to identify in your body where you feel when you're having an emotion. And so there's just electrified corset was how my emotions felt for various reasons. I mean, I think there was death. My father wasn't doing great. I was living here. There was a pandemic, and there was disappointments, and stuff. It's just like really human life. And so this is like my big, I don't want to say crybaby one, but if you want one that's like just like shoveling emotional manure, this is this one. And it's kind of fun. I think that I do it in as fun a way as you can, but sometimes it's like, oh boy, like here's a self-portrait where like that's how I felt. Kind of like,
wow, I love that.
I know, can you imagine that, right? But
I can totally see that. I can,
right.
100. These are when Amy is not sparkling in the tiara.
Yeah, right. It's true. There is a wide range of emotions, and that's it. Transfusion Poetica. There is a wide range of emotions, period, in life, and that's what this book is about. And then but next, I love this one because you're in it. Transfusion Poetica was a title that came to me one week when I was like, it was way before I did the book. I didn't know what I was going to use it for, but what it ended up being, I thought it was just going to be a bunch of poetry, whatever. But I kind of turned it into like a poetry almost textbook where it's like divided into like moods and objects and muses and illuminators and dreams and forms, art cards and stuff, or tactics. Like, remember when Rena used the phrase tragic eyebrows? There's 6 poems, 3 songs, 3 poems in here, tragic eyebrows number 1 through 6 and stuff. But the forms that we made up, we you made up, hey, yeah, from that.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, yeah. And because Angela likes syllable count, like a structure, whereas I'm just like, bleh! emotions, and stuff. But I love that when we would be doing Third Sunday poetry for a while and Cake and Hyperbole, we would choose either a form out of the Poet's Glossary by Edward Hirsch, or we would just make one up, like, hey, let's do this. I'm going to pick 10 words from this John Berryman poem and use his words and write my own poem that has nothing to do with it. So if you can stand a little talk about cigarettes and whiskey and you're like a high school teacher, this is your poetry. This is your poetry textbook. So yeah. Okay, now this one was written last year. It's like, okay, let me explain. This is called A Howling Breakfast of Moon Soda, not for no reason, but because it's a collection of 4 chapbooks that I'm just going to cheat, because whenever I try to say what they are, I can't remember. Hot Soda, Moon Devoured, Maple Syrup Collides with Ham, and Psychophonic Howling. Hot Soda I wrote February of 2022, and then Moon Devoured in March. I don't know why chapbooks were falling out of me. There were just things that were inspiring me. There was a lot of and so that there are 4 chapbooks in here, and that's what they were. And there's a lot of lino cut artwork and stuff like that. And this is probably, I think, one of my favorites, because the first 2, Hot Soda and Moon Devoured, are so like fantasy land, but the way I do it, and stuff. So I kind of enjoy this one. But the breakfast one, Maple Syrup Collides with Ham, basically a line from Twin Peaks, is all about breakfast. And that stuff goes back to when I lived in Texas and was obsessed with breakfast, because I was just a housewife and I'm not saying just a housewife. I kind of love being a housewife. Like, I've talked like making yogurt and knitting stuff and, baking cakes and, being ridiculous and stuff that you don't have to do, but I love to do. And so I have no disparagement for that lifestyle. It's just not always possible financially. So anyway, but when I was doing that, not contributing financially to the family, I got obsessed with breakfast and like sugar bowls and toast racks and all kinds of crazy crap. So that's in there. Next was Glitter and Ghosts. And the reason I wrote Glitter and Ghosts is because I love glitter and I love ghosts. And when I was a homeschool mother, every 13th of the month, we would take or if it was like a Monday or a Friday closest to the 13th, we would do school based around a ghost story or ghost stories, because there's a lot of vocabulary you can learn, and geography, and like history, because a lot of the ones we read were either Victorian or Edwardian or 20th century. And so, sometimes we would find things that we didn't know what they were. So we go and look. So there's a lot of rabbit holes you can do. And we found the poets, the Benson brothers, E.F. Benson, and then his 2 brothers, R.H. and A.L. or something. I always think of E.F. Benson because he's gorgeous, but also he and his 2 brothers all wrote ghost stories. Their father was the Archbishop of Canterbury, and apparently kind of an SOB, not nice. Which was a bummer, because when I first read about how there was 3 brothers in like the Victorian Edwardian time who all wrote ghost stories, I was like, oh my God, I wish I were their mom, and it was Christmas Day, and I was going to get like ghost stories from all of my boys. They also had a sister who spent some time in the insane asylum for stabbing the mother. So it was actually quite a complicated family. But since I discovered E.F. Benson, who writes magnificent ghost stories, and a lot of them, I was like, I want to be a writer of ghost stories. I want that to be in my gravestone or whatever. So I worked at, a lot of them have a lot of artwork in them, because when I was homeschooling and we would do Ghost Story 13th, when Clyde got to be in 7th and 8th grade, I would say, we're going to trade. Part of Ghost Story 13 is we're each going to write a ghost story and trade. And I wanted to do it through Woodneath, the espresso book machine, print up his and mine and give him out as Christmas presents to the family, but he was not comfortable. He's not ready. And I've been there where you're not ready to share your work. And I was like, okay, we won't. And I just hung on to my ghost stories, not knowing what I was going to do. But then Halloween was coming, and I had spooky poems, and I had the spooky stories. And while I was substitute teaching for 8 days, I would do the artwork and stuff. So, that's what Glitter and Ghost was. It was to have something to come out at Halloween, a place to put some of my spooky artwork that I already had. I already had spooky stories and poems, and then I probably shored it up a little. I don't remember. That was a big year. I don't remember what's in here.
I was crapping out poetry books left and right.
It's like Nietzsche says, it's like taking a shit. That's what Jason always says. He's like, you do art because it's like taking a shit. You have to do it. And I'm like, that was beautiful poetry. Thank both of you, you and Nietzsche. So that's what that one is. Less cheery, airing in circles. Well, the first part is, well, now, first of all, here's my cat.
I love that photo.
Doing the
and that
derp, you know?
title.
And I was just one day, he was sitting on the chair, and I knew I already had some of this written, and I wanted to do something with it. He was sitting on the chair with his freaking tongue between his teeth because he got interrupted while cleaning himself, and he's so special. And so I was like, oh God, my phone's upstairs. Please, I'm like literally praying to the Lord. Take time out of it. And it's God. He can do anything at once, everything at once. But I'm like, I'm going to go up and get my phone to take a picture. Please, God, let him still be doing it. He did it not only for like 10 pictures, but like 10 minutes later, I looked at him still doing it. So precious little lamb. But I was like, that's the cover of Airing in Circles. Airing in Circles is 2 chapbooks and the pizza box nudes have a place to live. Now at the end is artwork where I would draw nudes on pizza boxes. And
I feel like I'm getting my list out constantly. Like, oh yeah,
yes,
so that would do
do
that.
you want Angela with Clamato? I don't remember how we reached the idea that was what we had to do.
It's not going to have clamato now because
you're in Brazil.
I'll find a Brazilian equivalent.
Right. Well, the first part of Airing in Circles, I don't even know if it's called Hospitalities. It was going to the hospital to see my father. And some of them were written 2 years before he died, and some of them were written the week that he, died and stuff like that. And like way back, I don't remember. Like I drew him. Like I have a little collage of pictures I drew of him when he was at one point hooked up to a machine, and he like lived a year after that, so there was a lot of roller coaster with both of my parents ending, which is why I have this book that I really need to adhere to called it's called The Art of Dying or something like that. And so it's like, this is what you can do now. Eat like this, do yoga or whatever, and you can die more beautifully than a lot of people in our culture. Like my parents did not die beautifully. They call dementia, now they call it type 3 diabetes. So if we focus a little more on vegetables, I will never quit eating sugar entirely because it's such a joyful thing, but I don't have to, make it the focus, so
Yeah.
So anyway, just a lot of what I learned from the way that my dad went, and also great things about him because he was a wonderful guy, and I have his Farfisa organ and stuff like that, and I wrote some stuff about that. The second chapbook in it is called 17 Morning Drives, about the last 17 days. I just got a text from my sister. Obviously she's not watching, her poet sister. anyway invisible. But 17 Morning Drives is the last 17 days that my son went to school before Christmas vacation. And we were just like, fine, you can drop. We got dramatic and called it dropping out because it makes such good poetry. But really for, I'm going to say, I can't even remember. Probably for almost a school year, he did flounder a little, or maybe for like a semester and a half. And then kind of we found a program that he could do online. And so he is doing that. But he was like, it was not a great match for him. And
yeah,
he was homeschooled from 4th to 8th grade. He went to high school for a year and a half, my high school, but it's different. It's like, I think the world is different now. There was a pandemic while he was there. It was very difficult. So, that's what that's about. And then the pizza box news, and then sweater poems. I think I already talked about. Maybe it was when we weren't on.
It might have been
we don't know.
Pre-show number 1.
Right. Sweater poems was like, that was maybe the second one I did. It's just an ebook form, and it's just some block prints with little funny lines that I thought of the month before National Poetry Month, and I'd pull out one a day. Because you and I both.
Fun though.
Oh, we had so much fun. We had a really great National Poetry Month last year. I don't know how we're going to top it. I don't know if I am going to top it. But yes. I read a breakfast poem every morning at breakfast time, and then I would draw a phrase out of my, phrase. It was called Sweater Poems can or whatever. And there was just a line to write on a block print sweater. And and then put that into that book. So, and then Angela, you did a lunchtime thing every day where there were all kinds of fun things where you taught us to make the one sheet book, and I've told about Poem in Your Pocket Day and all these things that I was like, I am in. So,
Amy does fun stuff, and I'm over here. Let me teach you something instructional.
I was all over that. I cannot wait. I'm gonna be at an elementary school like in a couple of weeks or next week or something, not this week but next week, and I'm going to totally show them how to make that one-page book so that they can make their own little tiny poetry.
Yeah.
So, finally was Wassail to the Mausoleum Cake. Mausoleum Cake is from Angela. Angela likes to, why don't you tell?
Was it? Like, I remember Mausoleum Cake. Oh, right. The cake eating a cake
in the graveyard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That is what I do when I feel depressed or whatever, is I go, and I'm not gloating that everybody around me has passed away, but no matter how sad or whatever burden I'm dealing with, if I eat cake in a graveyard or chocolate or something, it reminds me that, hey, I'm not the worst thing. Like, I'm still here. There's still a chance to me to recover from this, and I can still feel joy and happiness because I'm not in the ground. So I'm going to eat cake in a graveyard and celebrate life. So that was that thing. I was like, I never said Mausoleum Cake, but then we were talking about it, and that's where Mausoleum Cake came from, which is way better name.
I don't remember how that came up, but I remember it came up from your story about this is why I eat cake in the graveyard or chocolate and things. And then we somehow hit the phrase Mausoleum Cake. And then that ended up being like, okay, for next Cake and Hyperbole, we both have to write a poem with Mausoleum Cake, which it comes up in. I've used it more than once because it's so
it's
fun.
become a theme between us.
Exactly. Yes. This one is poetry and some stories. Oh, I did put my picture on the front because if I can figure out which way to turn it, my cat, there's this song. I was doing this song. And my cat popped up over my shoulder while I was filming it. And I was like, thank you, God. That might have been the best. Okay, yes, I did have a child and that was excellent, but that might have been the best moment of my life. When it was happening is what it felt like. That cat was trying to get my attention and I'm like, yeah, I'm playing my guitar. And then he's just like, he pops up, goes meow, and then gets this almost exasperated look on his face when he closes his mouth. He's like, and then he pops back down. So really,
I remember because that's on your Instagram, isn't it?
It is.
I feel like I remember that.
It's in my story highlights because I don't want everyone to have to scroll, but it was like 2020 or something when it happened, and so so I use that. It's another opportunity to be a ghost story writer because there is the tradition of, you remember when you and Gina and I on Christmas Eve, we read ghost stories on Christmas Eve at midnight, midnight Central Time. I think Gina was in Pacific Time, but we did that. And this is just the Victorian tradition. They told ghost stories at Christmas and thought of Christmas more than Halloween as the time when the veil is thinnest, and Christmas Eve. And so I kind of just tried to do a bunch of Christmas ghost stories and Christmas poems that are spooky. And it does have a little bit of overlap with Glitter and Ghosts, but I thought this is where, if you need just a book of Christmas ghost stories stuff, that's this one. And to me, that's like the coolest thing. I love that tradition, so that's all of them that I have at this time.
That is awesome. And I am sitting here having ideas like, we should totally do this.
Yes.
So I'm going to say, because there's a couple things I wanted to do. One, for National Poetry Month, which is coming up.
Yep.
This is March. So next time we're doing this, it will be the beginning of National Poetry Month.
Yes.
We're going to have a guest, which is Colleen Anderson, who is the president of the Science Fiction Poetry Association. So, for we're going to kick it off big with the president. Boom. But, okay, that was really cringy. I'm sorry I did that. I apologize to everybody.
Fabulous. Hey, guys, we're not young and we don't apologize for that, but we're still, what are the kids? Cool.
Yeah, I don't think they say hip anymore. Salty means something else.
Groovy? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, groovy. I say groovy again. Yeah. But so what I'm going to do for National Poetry Month is, instead of me doing something, I've loved having other people read and record. I'm going to just see if I can get 30 people or however many days there are to do a little poetry reading and just release them all one at a time. So I'm going to be putting a call out for that soon.
Oh, cool.
But the other thing I wanted to do, I just put this in my plans. I actually do plan a lot. I say I don't, but I do plan a lot, probably over plan. But I wanted to do Christmas stories at midnight again, but
Yes.
for the 12 days of Christmas. And I've been trying to do this thing called the 13 days of Halloween. So you've got the 13 days of Halloween, the 12 days of Christmas. I will not be celebrating the 12 days of Christmas on the actual 12 days because it's supposed to be Christmas Day, the 25th through the 6th is actually the 12 days. I'm totally doing the modern American because I don't want to celebrate Christmas after Christmas.
Yeah. After that, you got to do your New Year and get all that.
And I'm not like a huge Christmas person, though. Like I am more now knowing Amy. But yeah, I am on the 25th. I'm done. So but I want to do the 12 days of Christmas before. So you don't have to say yes because I'm going to ask you right now live on the air. But would you record that midnight, like out of your book, 12 stories that you would pick and record and read them? And then I will play them at midnight at that time.
Yes, I will. You know damn good and well that Christmas is about 40% of my personality. So, yes. Thank you for asking. Oh, I'm excited. Yeah.
Oh, I'm excited because I was like, I really need to get that Christmas content, but Christmas. Ugh.
Yeah, I know. When Christmas comes, we're going to be, well, me. That is like wassail, to the mausoleum cakes. It's like, that was like, once that was done, I was done pushing all my poetry out for a while. And I could not, because I stopped doing art and stopped writing some poetry. It took me like 2 months to get back to art in the new year because I was just like so derailed from the holidays, but also everything I'd done for the last year.
Yeah.
So it's appropriate.
It was like
sometimes.
a gushing of just a tsunami of creativity for you last year.
It was,
and now I feel like it's like, I mean, it's not dried up, but it's like calm.
It is. There are times to be quiet. There are times to let life kind of wash over you, and then also times to participate in life instead of just writing about it. Not that I'm not doing anything when I'm writing, but there's life to live. But it's really good to kind of like have it. That was the point, was to kind of get all this out of me, and then like see what happens next and see where life goes and participate in life and get a job at the library and all these things. So yeah.
Well, I am super excited to see where you go from here. And I want to say thank you for letting me be a part of your life and your artistic adventure, because you have influenced me. Now I'm over here writing hallucinism poetry and loving it, and just where I was like super strict and metered and I don't know, do you say y'all or y'all? I mean, is that one syllable or two syllables? Let me see how many people pronounce it with two syllables, and I will go with the majority. I swear that has been thoughts in my head. So not with the word y'all, but words like that, some people pronounce them with two syllables. Some people, I can't think of any word off the top of my head right now, but there are those words.
Yeah, there are though. Yeah.
Yeah. And now I'm over there, I still like the structure and everything, but I like breaking it up so it's all hidden and fragmented. Like this glass ball, if I break it and then it has all the shatters, it's still a shape, it's still contained. So that's kind of where my poetry has gone because of you. Because you cannot be around you and not be affected by the glitter and the magic. So.
Oh, thank you, Angela. You are such an inspiration to me, just with your living the writer's life and making it like a legitimate thing, and also encouraging everyone. Oh, Nina,
I repeat Nina's comment there.
A sparkly poet. Thank you, Nina. Oh, that is a blessing. I mean, you're a true blessing in my life with your encouragement and your heights to aspire to and things like that. So I really appreciate you. And thank you for having me and letting me go on and on about my poetry that goes on and on from last year. So it's been a really fun ride.
Yeah, it has been very cool, like watching you, like just watching this explosion. So, yeah, very inspiring.
Oh, well, thank you. I enjoy poetry so much. I love reading it. I love writing it. I read certain poets and I'm like, I want to lick their face, and stuff like that. It's really out of control, but that is how much I like poetry. And I don't understand, that thing you and I come to, we're like, oh yeah, not everybody just really wants to just like, lick poetry's face like I do.
I'm going to say one thing that came up while we were talking, and I was like, oh, that's the difference between us.
Oh, yeah.
You had said something about like you had wanted, like when you were younger, and you're like, oh, I just want to smell his aftershave.
Yeah.
And I remember so many times being attracted to some guy and being like, I just want to like bite him or taste his blood or something. I'm just like just punch him a little bit, just. And I was like, oh, I get that. I see why we're alike and yet different.
Not to make everything about Bob's Burgers, but the youngest child is like that. First of all, she thinks love is stupid and she's never going to fall in love with a boy. And then she falls in love with this boy in a boy band and gets to meet him and I want to slap him. I'm just going to slap him. It's like she loves him so much. She wants to slap his face.
That meme has been sent to me and I have been told that I am Louise. And a funny story about that, a sidebar, Your Honor. We were playing RPG recently, like the family here in Brazil gets together and we play RPG.
Yep.
And there was a guy that we had come across and he was being described as very beautiful and, blah, blah, blah. And then he stands up and he's, I don't know what he's doing with his flute. Okay, that's suspicious when you whip out a flute and start like you're going to just play for people. So anyways, he pulls out his flute and he starts to play it and I slap it out of his hand and I rolled a 20. So it basically exploded. Well, he was fine. Just the flute was smashed. And everybody's like, why would you do that? And I was like, because he was beautiful.
I heard him. That is like perfection.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm like I am, but hey,
what you're supposed to be.
If I like you, I might hurt you. This is why I've moved to Brazil. I'm like, I love you, Amy. I do not want to slap you.
I dodged a bullet. Well, I would be like,
it's a guy thing. It's a beautiful guy thing.
Right.
It's like, oh, you're so beautiful. I just want to like poke your eyeballs or something. Oh, I don't know what I'm feeling. Like you should run.
Oh, this is beautiful insight. I think we're all being inspired to write a character that is Angela, basically, and just, tears her hair out.
That is Louise, probably.
It's like, it's okay. It just means you're hot. That she pulled a bald spot in your hair.
As I'm wrapping the plastic wrap around them, this is a compliment.
That's right. This means you really touched me.
And now, anyways, I'll stop. It will get too dark.
It will, but I'm right here. And also it's funny and fun.
Well, I guess that's it. I mean, I'm going to urge everybody to go into the comments and find Amy's website. If you go over to my blog on the free resources, you will find her podcast linked up. I put a few podcasts that I know and love, even though I'm terrible at listening to podcasts because I can't find them, but now I can because I linked them. And what else is in the comment box? I know links to your books and some other things. So yeah, go look in the comment box. Find Amy, buy all these beautiful books. I have them all in my Kindle. I had most of them at paperback, which I left in, because I just can't take everything. But I have them all in my phone, and I love all of them. And I love the whole adventure that you've done.
Oh, thank you, Angela. I have loved that you've been a part of it.
Yeah, I love being a part of it. And now we're going to stop doing that because we did say we'll have a whole show of us going, no, I love you. No, I love, no, you're you. I love you. I love you more. I love you so much.
Okay, but not in the tiara.
Don't knock the gems off.
Put up my sparkly bracelets. No.
Okay.
Oh, fun.
Right. Well, I thank you all for being here. Go find all of Amy's books, buy them. Go check out the podcast. Go check her out on Hypness and Outrage. All of the links are below. Coming up, we have, I'm getting my list. Where am I? What month is this? Oh, coming up next week, we have A.F. Stewart coming on, who was in our comments just now. And she has been an indie author for over a decade. If you want to know anything about this kind of Wild West industry, A.F. Stewart will know. Anita Stewart will know. Next Wednesday, I have started doing like a Wednesday show as well, which is less guest oriented because it's less organized. And I'm not promising I'm going to do it every Wednesday. No. So it's like a 0.5 show.
Cool.
That may or may not show up, but kind of if I have something extra. So next Wednesday, I'm going to use my pendulum, which is here in my, and I am going to try to predict the Bram Stoker winners, which I did last year, but I didn't do it publicly, and it's pretty dang accurate. And I just predicted 3 people said girl baby. The pendulum said girl baby. Everybody else said boy. Pendulum was right. So we're going to test that out next Wednesday on that.
Okay.
And then Saturday will be A.F. Stewart. Then the next Wednesday will be a bunch of publishers, I think. And then Daniel M. Kimmel talking about being a movie critic. And Amanda Hayden after that talking about the art of sauntering, which I love.
Oh, yes. I love it. I feel like I just read a quote about sauntering, but I'm not going to ruin it because it might be part of the thread of what this person is.
I'm excited. I don't know anything about sauntering except for what I'm guessing that sauntering is. But I'm really excited. I'm sorry, I was off in my list. So let me share some comments real quick. So there's a ton of them.
Sure.
But yeah, so sauntering, she's got a poetry book about sauntering. And I feel like I know what it is, but the thought of it being an art is good. So we have Nina. All you have to do is wear your poetry hat to feel better. I see my name. I'm suspicious. Angela is still at the 6th grade. I like a boy level. Yes. If I like you, I will pull your braids and punch you. Sorry. It says a lot about Ryan.
I love it. Oh, Ryan is darling.
That's probably how that worked because he was in Australia, so I couldn't quite get to him. But
that's right, and they're also pretty tough. They've got 7 out of 10, of those episodes of World's Most Dangerous Creatures are just set in Australia.
Oh yeah.
So,
and we were gamers when we were dating, so I killed him and he killed me, and I let him die a few times. And
it's done.
So,
exactly.
Yeah, I got it out of my system.
Very good. That's great. Sublimation.
Yeah. So that's why that worked. Now I know.
Awesome. Oh, I love it.
I'm what? Because I have to read this. So now we have the poet of the week for our poetry spotlight. It is Maxwell I. Gold reading The Gates of Katharion. That's his poem, The Gates of Katharion. But this time it is Ryan Ozzie Smith reading it. And Ryan also put together the movie, and Ryan is that husband that survived because I killed him in a game and not in real life. But so I'm going to play that. I love this poem, and I love how it turned out. And if you would like to be a poetry spotlight person, poet, then that link is also in the description. And so you can go find that and submit. I'm trying to pick a new poet every time until I run out of new poets. And then I'm going to start repeating. But yeah, the idea is just to be able to get people's names out there and give them something to share of their work.
Very cool. Very cool.
I'm going to play that. And I just want to thank everybody for being on. And yeah, we'll see you. I guess I'll see you at 0.5 Wednesday, but also next Saturday.
All right.
All right. Bye. Oh, and I have to hit play. It's never graceful when I have to play it on YouTube. So let me go over here. All right. Less cool than when I have it actually loaded in the studio.
The Gates of Katharion by Maxwell I. Gold. Originally published in Weird Tales magazine, issue 366, Sword and Sorcery issue. Iron mouths smiled with teeth of rust and blood, while Katharion waited. with hinges so black and doomful. On amethystine nights, there collected a mass of death and pride as the armies of tomorrow rot and decay on fields of someday. Old bones so grey and dusty, withered under shadows aghast, expelled from garish crooked towers, while Katharion waited, where cities fell, banners wilted in the crimson moonlight, and history too passed with a bloody chime. The gates finally shut, and Katharion remained, clouded by murk and mania of a world unchanged by war's ebullience or famine's hunger. Nothing constrained the oxidizing madness of battle, even when the old dream palaces above crumbled into ruinous thought, where the stars soon died, and all was dark and empty. Nothing stayed the laughter of iron mouths, with teeth of rust and blood.
And Katharion remained.